Okay, so I'm Danielle Wicks. I'm from John Bead, and I'm here on behalf of Michaels to teach you guys how to do beaded bangle bracelets today. This is a recorded class. The replay will be available on michaels.com/classes. And if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat. Let's see, there is a class handout, and it is available on, if you go to where you register to sign up for the class, there's a list of materials, and you can download the PDF there. I believe we'll also be dropping it in the chat if you still need it. So yeah, I'll introduce the project right now. It's a beaded bangle. There's lots of different ways you can make this. You can make it as a solid around the wrist bangle. You use a size 8, size 11, and size 6 seed beads. And the thread it's on is wildfire. And it can be made also with a clasp. I'm going to show you guys how to make it both ways, with a clasp or without. You can also put an ear wire on it, make it a little less round, maybe like about that big, and make an earring, which is really, really cute. And I'll show you how to do that too. So I'm going to go ahead and switch down to my other camera so I can show you the project a little better view. So here's what I have in progress there. So here's an example of a finished bangle. And this one just is continuous all the way around. And I picked those colors out of the agate mix in size 6. They're a little size 11 galvanized gold. And the size 8 color is called barley ivory. And that's the main color. And so what we end up doing is building a beaded chain and then almost kind of like setting the gemstones in it as we go around on that third pass. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, starting with the wildfire beading thread. And I'm going to go through this twice. You guys will get to see both versions, the clasp and non-clasped version. And in order to make it faster, I'm going to make my sample bracelet today a smaller circle. So starting with the best part of every class, threading a needle. I'm going to bring out these chainless pliers. If you were here with me last week, you saw a new trick that I learned from Meredith at Beadalon. So you can flatten the end of this thread, and don't pull on it because it will actually pull some of the color off of it. But if you just gently kind of press it with the chainless pliers, you'll be able to thread your needle really easy. The needles I'm using are these. They're size 10 hard beading needles. And this should be really easy to do based on that. Yeah. So that saved me a lot of time. I hope it saves you guys time too. I really like that trick. Okay, and so if you're making a full-length bangle, you'll want to cut about 40 inches of thread. And so for my example here, I'm going to go a little shorter, but if you're working this at home, about 40 inches will do it. The scissors I'm using are just some Recollections precision scissors. Okay, and so for beads, I think for this one, I'll go with something that's just nice and easy to see. I was thinking, what do you think of this blue? A little too glary? Maybe something different. The turquoise was a little less bright, but I think maybe we'll switch that out for, I can't decide. I'm always trying to decide on colors. I think this might be better. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. All right, so the way this works is you pick up any length you like, but you'll need to pick it up in groups of 4. So I usually just count 4, slide it down, leaving about a 7-inch tail. Now, if you'd like to use a stop bead, I usually just kind of leave enough at the end there that I don't worry about it too much. But if you wanted to add a stop bead on, to do is put another bead on the end and go back through it twice. And, I'll show you guys that if you want. Just pick up a bead, bring it down, go back through the bead and pull. And that's how to do a stop bead. And so there's my first 4. And I'm just going to add a bunch more in groups of 4. So there's 4 more here. 4. And 4. And I'm not really actually counting. I'm just throwing these on there in a group of 4 until I get a length that I like. If I was going to make this full length, I'd measure it around my wrist. You won't lose any length when you add the next layer. So that method will work. If you're making a bangle and you don't know who the bangle is for, if it's just a gift or it's for example, if it's for selling at a craft fair, 7 inches is usually the average you'd make. If it's a bangle, make it 8 inches because it's got to go over the main part of the hand. Okay, I'm just going to check my math because I was chatting. So that's my stop bead. And here's my groups of 4. 4, 4. And this doesn't take long to do. There is a way to save the bracelet if for some reason you get to the end and you see, oh no, I didn't get enough beads. I will show you that trick too. Okay. So now I'm going to take off my stop bead. And to do that, I'm just going to pull it. So there's my groups of 4, strong. Go back through the first bead. Tight, and you'll get a ring. Now all you need to do is pick up 3 size 8 seed beads. Skip 3. And just go through that 4th bead. And what you'll see happen is the 3s will sit next to each other. They'll stack like that. And so I'm going to pick up 3 more. I'm going to skip 3 and go to the next one. And it will be loose here. Don't worry about it. What I often do is I just keep pulling on the tail. Every time I add a group of 3, I'll pull on the tail. And it'll get tighter as I go around. So skipping 3. I picked up 3, skipping 3, going through the 4th bead. There we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Go through here. And so this is the variation that I'm doing here. Some of you guys will recognize this as a Peyote Stench. And yeah, that is what this is. It's just kind of like 3 drop, 1 drop, 3 drop, 1 drop peyote. All the way around. Skipping 3, going through the 4th. Skip 3, go through the 4th one. I'm almost to the end. Okay, skip these 3, go through the 4th one. And now you see I have just 3 beads here, which means I counted right. Yay! So let's skip these 3 and go through that 4th one. And that is the one my tail thread's exiting. That's exactly what I want. Pull tight. And there's your bangle. And so now we're just going to embellish it. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could weave in the tail. I haven't been doing that. I've been weaving it in at the end, but you could. To weave it in, you just loop through, go down, loop through, go down. Now I will show you guys that in more detail in just a minute here. But now I need to choose a color in size 11, and a color in size 6. So let's see, this is a really pretty blue. And I was thinking of contrasting it so you guys can really see what I'm doing. And I was just gonna go with like bright yellow maybe, or yeah, that'll do. And I'm gonna go with my son's favorite color, because why not? This is Groovy Grape. And it is really cool. And some yellow here. So this is kind of like a golden yellow. It's like yolk colored. Okay. And so the next thing you want to do is pick up an 11, a 6, and an 11. And now take a look at the structure here. We've got our middle bead, which is the single beads we were going through, and then these 3 on the side. We're going to skip the 3s that are on the side and just go through that next little bead right here. And so when you do that, I'm trying to stay on camera, sorry guys. What'll happen is that little bead will sit with the 11s right on top. And what I'm going to do here is just make sure these guys are sitting so that they're facing the top. There we go. So there's 1. And now you just repeat that. 11, 6, 11. And skipping these 3 on both sides and going through the center 4th one here. And so that's all I'm doing on every section here, going around by picking up 11, 6, 11 and going through that next 8. That isn't part of the kind of, I guess, arms of the side of it. And so you can see where this can get pretty quick. You know, you can start going pretty fast and you'll have a bangle in no time. And one fun thing to do with this idea is to make a color-coded kind of complementary stack. Tie it together with a ribbon, and that makes a really nice gift. And there are so many of the new mixes that I would like to try. I've been sticking with this convention of having the base color of 8s, which are these guys, being a solid. But I would like to see one where that is a mix and you use maybe a solid color on the top of it too. I haven't tried that yet. I've done a mix on top, like a mix of 6s in different colors. So definitely on my list to do. Okay, I'm almost to the end. I'm at the last. And so here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pick up the last set of 11, 6, 11. And I'm going to go through that 4 again. And here it is. It could almost be a ring. That'd be cute. There's the bangle, all done. So weaving in your thread, one of the best ways to do that is to use these 8s on the side as a place to turn direction. You guys all know from all the other classes that changing direction is a great way to tighten thread. So now you see how I turned, I went back through that second side of the 8. Okay. And if it's curling, like you see how mine is turning direction, you can just twist it and it'll go right back in place. I'm gonna pick up the next, I'm exiting from here. I'm gonna go through the next middle 8 here. I'm gonna turn and go through those 8s. Change direction again. And I'll do that one more time. And so I'm going to skip this one since I wove around that one already. I'm going to go through and down through this one. And that'll give you a chance to straighten out this side. There we go. So now I'm going to go through all these 8s on this side, turn, direction, and trim. And that's it for weaving in. That's all you've got to do. If you wanted to tie a knot, you could do that. It wouldn't hurt anything. If you were going to tie a knot, I would say a great place to tie it would be here. So I've just exited from a 3. I could go underneath. And just in front of that 8, I'm capturing both threads from both sides of those 8 arms, tightening it just in front of this 8. Trying not to catch any other beads. But like, let's see here. Bravely knotting right there. One of the reasons I don't like knots is no matter how much I try, I always end up being able to see my knot. But it's possible to hide it. So there's a knot in front of that 8. And I can come around and go through that 8 and trim it. It's tight. Okay. And the secret to trimming without your thread tail showing is to just push down with the scissors and pull on the thread. It should disappear really nicely. You can also burn it if you have a burner. And there it is, little bangle, little tiny bangle. And so I'm going to go through one more time since we're doing great on time. I think what I could do next is build that same configuration again and then show you guys the clasp version. I think we've got time to do all 3. Let's see. Wildfire thread. This is the 0.6. And you'll want to cut 40 inches. I'm cutting a little shorter from my version because I'm doing a mini version. And I'm using the chain nose pliers to flatten. And then I'm using a size 10 beading needle. I'm going to go ahead and thread the needle there. And leaving a 7-inch tail, I'm going to put a stop bead on. This is optional if you want to do a stop bead. So there's my 7-inch tail, stop bead, going back through it. Slide it down a little bit. There we go. Okay. And now, just like we did before, in groups of 4, just start stringing beads into a length that works for you. And if you don't know who you're making it for, about 8 inches is a great idea for length. And someone earlier today messaged me and asked, can I make this with different bead sizes? And I said, yeah, definitely. If you wanted to do, for example, a tiny one, and you were going to make this 11s instead of using the 8s, something you could do is 11s with 15s, or I don't know if you have 15s around, that would work. Another thing you could try if you had 6s is you could put a little 4mm gemstone bead in place of the 6/0, and that would work too. Just the secret of scaling up is always recognizing that just the pattern is what matters and not necessarily what you're using. So here's my groups of 4. I'm going to do one more. And I'm going to pull my stop bead off. And go back through just one bead, that first bead that I added. This one's really tiny, but it will work. And I'm going to need some more 8s. So here's my 8s. This color is, it says green. It has an Aurora Borealis finish to it, apparent, and it's matte. And it's gorgeous. So picking up 3 size 8 beads, I'm going to skip and go through the 4th bead. And it will be loose the first time I do this, but I just keep pulling on the tail. Pick up 3, skip 3, go through the 4th. Picking up 3, skipping 3, going through the 4th. Skip those 3, go through the 4th one. Okay, one more. So here's a set of 3. You'll see I've got exactly 3 left here. I'm going to go through that 4th bead, which is the one my tail is exiting. And pull tight. And now 8. And then you'll just need an 11, a 6, and an 11. And so from where I'm exiting here, I'm exiting from one of those middle 8 beads. I'm going to skip these arms and go through the next, the 4th one there. And when you pull tight, the new gemstone bead will sit right on top. The gemstone, that's what I'm pretending these groovy grapes are. And keep going to the next one. So 11, 6, 11. Skipping these 3s on the side and going through that middle 4th one. $11, 6, 11. Skipping and going through that 4th. And this is that tail thread. I'm just going to pull that out of the way. There we go. And go through one more. So this is the last one. There's 3 on each side, and I'm going to share this 4th bead here. It's also, again, that one that the tail is exiting. And there it is, a little tiny one. So lots of design possibility with that. You could even kind of link it like those little chains we used to make as kids, you know, that with the construction paper, you could just add another one for maybe like a decor item. So now I'm just going to weave in. There's no rhyme or reason to weaving in, but I tend to go through 3 here and then turn and go through those 3. And then I'm going to go through that 4. And you see I'm starting to go through that side 3 again. Go through there. And go through one more. Okay, and then getting the tail out of the way here, turning again, changing direction. Back through. Okay, and so here's direction change number 3. And I'm sure that this thread doesn't hook on the embellishment on top. Go through the 8. Trim by pushing down with the scissors and pulling up. And then just take the needle, thread it onto your tail thread, and repeat what we just did. Just go through a few of them and weave it in. And there you'll have a very tiny bangle. Not a large piece, so it'll look like that. So one trick that I wanted to share before we do the clasp version is, let's say you were distracted and you were miscounting as you were doing that first set of 4. And it's kind of a big deal when you get to the end, because by the time you notice that, you'll have already built all the way around to this side, and you'll be like, oh, you'll get to the end and there'll be an extra bead or an extra few beads. That happened to me on this one. So you see how I've got 2 beads here when there should only be 1? There's 2. I'm not going to swipe. I just continued through it and started building my next embellishment part. And what I might do with that is put a charm on. I could also use that as the spot where I tie my ribbon. Maybe do that on purpose so you have a place to tie your ribbon or to put a charm. So there's just one more idea. And I think I'll go ahead and start the clasp version now so you guys can see that. And then we'll have time. We're going to have a lot of time, so maybe if someone would like to see making the earring, I could try to. But it's the same steps. So really nice, easy project, I think. And so for making the variation that has a clasp, it's all the same instructions in the beginning. It's 40 inches of thread. And the same process for putting the needle together there, where I use the chainless pliers to flatten it. Not pulling, just flattening that thread. That's how easy that was to thread. That's so cool. And I'm going to quickly show you guys the difference for what we're going to do next. So we're going to string 6 beads and just kind of ignore them. And then we're going to string 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. And then we're going to string 6 and come back through. And this is where your jump ring. And I'll show you how to reinforce that. And we're going to come down and add the 3s like we did before, reinforcing the side. Excuse me. And then we add the embellishment and reinforce that side. Okay, so as we saw in the diagram, there were 6 beads. And we're just going to string those for now and just kind of leave them at the end. And leave about the same length of tail, about 7 inches is fine, because we're just going to weave that in at the end. And now I'm going to do my groups of 4. So 2, 3, 4. And 4 more. Okay, that should do it. All right, and that's a pretty good length there. And so now I need to add 6 more. That's going to be that end loop. So pick up 6. Okay, and then just go back the bead. That was the last one we strung. And I'm going to go ahead and pull tight and watch that kind of just lock into place. A little tip here, if you're using one of the clasps that does not have an open and closing jump ring, you'll need to put your clasp on now. An example of that would be these guys here. Are kind of one of my favorites, but you see how they have these built-in jump rings on them, or even just like kind of like a bead a little bit. You would need to string that after, so you'd string 3, put your clasp, and then string 3. But I'm going to go ahead and use a jump ring for this one, so I'm skipping that. Pull tight. And now the same as we did before, just in, going straight. So pick up 3, skip 3, and go through the 4th bead. And I'm in this peyote, you guys will recognize it as peyote. I always pull my working and thread tails apart after each add to to tighten up my peyote. And skipping 3, go through the 4th. Pulling the thread and the thread's apart there. 3 more. Skip 3 and go for that 4th one. I don't know if anyone watching has ever heard of a stitch called flat chenille. I love that stitch, and this is step 1 of flat chenille. If you're building your base row, maybe we should do that as a class. It's an advanced one, but I honestly think it's pretty easy. I hear people say it's advanced, but I think it's fun and not super different than peyote stitch. So thinking aloud, that would be a really fun one we should do. Okay, I'm picking up 3, skipping 3, go through that 4th one. All right, so now I'm down to those last 6 beads that I had in the beginning. It looks like I lost a bead. Oh yeah, one of them fell off. Okay. So I've reached this end, and I'm gonna go through all these guys again. Those. And then turn and go back through my 4th. The 4th one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and go through this one. And there we go. And I'm just going to flatten everything out. And now what you're seeing here is the same stitch we just did before, just in a straight line. Okay, and so this is the embellishment part. We can do that next. I'm going to pick up, actually I'm just going to look at this again here. Before I go through that 4th one, what I might want to do is just go back and tighten it up again. So I'm going to go through this. You can use your tail thread to tighten it as well. But I was just thinking, why not make it tighter now so it sits nicely while I'm working with the embellishment. So all I did, as I was exiting from this one, I went down through these 3, came back up through these 3, went through this 8. That's where I am now. And now I'm just going to retrace and reinforce this connection where we're going to have our jump ring and clasp. So coming down through here. Okay. And now I'm going to go through that 8. That's our kind of the one that's in the middle there. Okay. And now the embellishment. So 111, 16, 111. Skipping these guys on the side and going through that neck. I'm going to do that all the way to the end. Okay, picking up an 8, sorry, an 11, a 6, and an 11. Go through the next middle 8, skipping those 3s on the side. And the same thing again, 11 and a 6 and 11. So this goes really fast. Even on a full-size bracelet, it goes pretty fast. You can make it in an hour or less. And another thing that you could do is you could embellish both sides. And even though that wouldn't sit as well on the wrist as a bracelet, it would look neat as just a single stranded earring. So now that I'm at the end, I can show you what I mean. What you would do then is you'd loop around through here and come back through that middle one and just repeat the steps we just did. Repeat them on this side all the way down. And then you could put a charm here and an ear wire here. And you'd have a little earring idea. Yet another earring idea for the day. Because there's no such thing as too many earring ideas. So I'm going to reinforce this loop over here. And so if this was going to be a bracelet and I was finishing it, I would go through this again. So all I did here is I turned, going through all those again, kind of like we did on the other side, just to make sure there's more than a few thread passes going through the area where there's going to be a jump ring. So going through there, and I will show you guys putting the jump ring on it next. But I'm going to show you weaving in one more time since we've got time, and that's usually something that people ask about. So I just exited from this last loop. I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to start going down one of the sides. It doesn't matter which side. One of the side 8s here. And change direction by turning and going through 3 side 8s there. And sometimes I use my thumbnail just to make sure the thread goes in front of that 8. And it just disappears. And it serves to tighten and hold the position of that section, which is also another bonus there. And turning around again, going through those 3. Same thing here, just helping the thread not catch on itself and sit right in front of that main center 8. Okay, I'm gonna go through this one. The next 8. I'm just repeating myself now. And the cool thing about the flat version is you can just flip it over and use the other side to see better. Let's go through there. And through there. And there we go. So I'm going to come through this one here. This is the last 8. And I'm going to trim. Okay. And so when you get that side done, and keep in mind on your bracelet, you'd have quite a lot of length here. You'll take your tail thread and you want to thread and on that. Okay. And reinforce this side now too. Now we already went through twice, so I'm going to go through it a 3rd time with the tail. And go through that middle 8. Okay. And now the same thing we did before. I'm just going to turn, change direction 3 times. I'm going to do that really fast. Okay. It's getting a little tighter. Okay. I'm going through one more time. I'm going to go through one more loop and then trim. Weaving in takes a while, but it's worth it, and it's an important step, so I always try to give it a little bit of attention. Going through there, just making loops around the side 8s. I did that 3 times. And come through. There you go. Trim that. Okay. So there's a very, very tiny bracelet. And so to finish that, I'm going to grab one of the little findings packs that they're at Michael's. And I'm going to grab 2 gem rings and maybe a few more for side. And I'm going to grab 1 clasp. And so for when I'm doing jump rings, opening and closing jump rings, I like those flat nose. And I like to use the bent nose pliers. I like those. Is just holding more of the jump ring solid, you know, so it's not being bent as much. And then the bent nose just enable me to get a really tight closure on jump ring. It's coming through here. Oops, I dropped that one. Through. I left it open and put on the clasp. And now see how this holds a really good amount of that jump ring. These are the flat nose pliers. And then the bent nose, lots of visibility to see what I'm like that. You hear the click, that's good. So you mean you've got a tight fit with your jump ring. So there's one side. And then I like to make a chain with my jump rings. I attach one, just kind of in the normal way. Okay. And then I take extras, and I would probably put maybe, I don't know, 3 to 5 jump rings. I would just keep going. I'll just do 1 today. But before I put that on, I'm going to add a seed bead to it. Because why not? Also serves to put a little weight on the end of it. So when you're putting it on, there's just a tiny bit of weight at the end of the chain that you're using to clasp. You might get 2 on there. You might be able to get a 6 on there. I just threw an 8 on it. There you go. And that's the whole and we still have 15 minutes left. So if there's someone who would like to see a step maybe that I missed that they'd like me to go back to, this could basically be anything. Yeah, it could. It can be a lot of great ideas. And what I like about the stitch in general, or when I mentioned the chenille, the way the chenille works is you come add in this direction a cuff style weave. And I'm feeling like we need to do that as a class. I don't know, just came to me, but I'm thinking that would be very fun. But
hi Danielle, it's Carmi.
Oh, hey.
Hi, I just wanted to let you know from the sidebar comments, you've convinced everyone to make earrings. Even though this is a class, they would love to see you making an earring.
Yeah.
Or how you would turn it into an earring.
So to make it an earring is super easy. When you're doing that first count, I'm gonna go ahead and just grab one more thread here. You guys remember when I was saying how I miscounted on this one? And I had some extra beads? You'd want to miscount on purpose and have 3 here. And that's about a good size, 3 or 4, to put a jump ring. And then it would hang. I'd do that really quick. But it's exactly the same process we just did. It's just that instead of, when you get to the end of adding all of your 4, add 3 more. That was how we described it in the my handout. Let's take a quick look at what we said here. There. Okay, just gonna quickly thread this. Okay, got my knitting needle, same needle we were using before. Okay. And so yeah, groups of 4. And 4 more. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit small, but so 4, 4, 4, sorry, that's 3, 4, and 4 and 4. So I know I've got my groups of 4. Now I'm going to add 3 more, which isn't the number I want, but on purpose I'm doing that so that we'll have a spot for a jump ring. Coming back through. And we're just doing that same process again. We're going to pick up 3, skip 3, go through 1. And then pick up 3, there, skipping 1, and going through 1. I'm just tightening it here with the tail thread, and pick up 3 more, skip these 3, go through 1. And skip 3, go through 1. I'm going to grab a few more 8s. Three more, skipping 3 and going 1. Okay. And now I'm at the top here. And so when we made the bangle before, we were going to pick up 3 and skip 3. Oh, hang on, I only have 2. But that's exactly what I want because I'm going to put a jump ring right there for my earrings. So to do that, to finish this, pass through those 2 and then pass through the one the tail's coming out of. And this looks like we've got time, so I'm just going to quickly embellish it so you can see step to step. Have it done. Sorry, I'm chasing around these little 11s here. Okay. So this is just the same as before. We're just going to skip those arms on the sides and go through the middle. Oops, that's not the middle. That's the middle. First one's going to be loose. Just keep using that tail to pull. And of course, to make a cute earring, you'd want this to be, you know, quite a bit longer. Not as long as a bracelet, but I think I made my earrings 3 inches. The ones that are in the hand, those were 3 inches long. Okay. Go through this one. Okay, so now we're back at the top and we're back where we had those 2. I've just gone through that last bead. And so now what I want to do is, of course, weave everything in, trim, and then I would put my jump ring here. I might have time to just quickly do that so you guys can see if anything. All I'm doing here is speed weaving it. So going through one side, making a turn, coming back through the other 3. Then going through that. I'm going to go through that top again. I'm going to go through the side. Go through an 8. And the reason I'm going through one more here is because I still have my tail to weave in, so I'm leaving him a spot. And I'm just going through this one that's a little further down. Go through here, I turn direction once. One more time, so that was my second change of direction. Here's my 3rd. I'm going through one more. Okay. And you could do that one more time if you wanted to, if you're feeling like it's loose. Great way to tighten up stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and trim it. Go speed racer. Here we go. Got one more side to weave in. Okay, and so this one is going that direction. So I'm going to once again go through those top extra beads that we had. I'm going to use this one to change direction. Turning through here. So lots of reinforcement. Now I just went through that 11. I'm going to live with that. Keep going through here. And I'm going to loop around this one. Through one more here. Okay. And same thing before, pressing down with the scissors, pulling up the thread, trim. And so pretend that's much longer, but it's even cute just like that. And again, you'd want to use some jump rings from one of those findings packs. It works great. Add one. Flat nose, bent nose. Open that up. And go around. And I even think I have an ear wire. I think I'm going to grab an ear wire for you guys. So you see how you've just got just a jump ring there. I'm going to pull one of these guys here. So with these earrings, oops, sorry, I dropped that. To open an ear wire, you go like that. So you see how these loops are, they start like this. And I've stuck to the chain nose. And just laterally opening it. And put that on a jump ring, the one that's attached here. And close it. And to make it tighter, you can come along with your chain nose plier and holding it pretty steady, just very gently nudge it closed. And there's your earring. It almost looks like a little wreath, I think. That would be cool. A little decor there. All right. So do you guys have any more questions about this project? Or I can also show you guys the next project we're doing.
Danielle, you got some questions at the beginning of the class about the wall behind you.
Ah, yeah, let's show for sure. I'm going to switch back over here. My other camera. Did that work? Yeah, that worked. Cool, yeah, so behind me, it's a work in progress because I didn't buy enough hooks. I know how many beads there are and I didn't bother counting how many hooks I bought. But next week, this will be full of beads. They're all, almost all the 6s are here, not all of them, but there's probably a few more. And then 11s, these are all the 11s. These are all the 10s. These are not all of the 8s. I still have more 8s to add. I also need to add super duos, bugles, and the cube beads. If you guys haven't seen those cubes yet, those are really neat. I'm going to do a project with the cubes. A few ideas there. And let's see, I should show you next week's project. So next week, it's a really fun one. We're going to play with delicas. Oh, that's something else I don't have up, the delicas. And I have those too. I need to put those, they're going to be like right here, I think. Next week, we're going to use Miyuki delicas. And I say delicas, but you can also use regular seed beads to do this. You can use any seed beads you'd like to do this. Delicas are fun in brick stitch because just how uniformly they stack on top of each other. But what you'll want to grab is maybe some tubes of delicas, maybe some tubes of size 10s or 11s or 8s, a charm, some ball chain or some leather cord or some suede or suede lace, whatever you like. You'll need some wire guardians and jump rings. And in this case, I used the 9mo thread. And so yeah, we're going to design our own. This pattern is in the handout. There's another pattern in the handout that looks like stars and moon. And then there's a blank page that you can color with colored pencils to make your own design. And I thought something that would be really fun to do next week in class is have you guys just throw me an idea. Hey, make a cactus. And I'll just set pencils and we'll color it and then we'll stitch it up and see what it looks like. So hopefully we can, if we have time to do that, get it right at the end. We'll give a start to that. And if I don't finish it in class, I'll finish it after and post it. So we'll have a lot of fun. So that's next week. Then right after that, we're going to be doing the cool little mandalas. This is almost kind of a variation of what we were doing with the Super Duo, but you start with a bunch of 6s. And what's neat about this is that it's a super easy design to make. It's really complicated, but it's not. And it's a little flower with a star in the center. So really fun to make. And then Halloween week, the 27th, we're gonna make peyote chains. And peyote chains are fun because you can add charms anywhere you want. You could also just add a solid pendant. And because this chain is so strong, it can support the weight of like a gemstone pendant, for example. And I have one I'm working on right now that uses a cute frog that my son found at Michael's in the new charm section. But this is a variation that has 3. And this uses some delicas. I hid some little silk delicas in there. They look like stars to me. I don't know if this is coming across on the camera very well, but they have a sparkle to them, which looks really cool with the eye, which has a little sparkle in it. So we're gonna have a really fun Gifttober, super highly personable gift ideas. Yeah, and lots of good stuff ahead. So unless anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
I think we're great. A lot of people actually finished the bracelet in the class. So
they did?
You have had some great feedback on the sidebar. People are loving your classes. I do recognize a few of our students. They've taken every single class that you have taught. And quite a few people have already signed up for the next 3. So lots of love on the sidebar for you, Danielle, and many, many thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. And I think even our November class is up. Scroll to the end in michaels.com/classes. The November one, if you want to get a sneak peek of that, is already posted. So, on behalf of Michael, thank you guys for taking class tonight, and I'll be looking to see what you guys share, your finished creations. Have a good night.